Welcome to Lifelong Education's YouTube interview series as we journey a lighted path of life with our guests to everyday presence. Along our path, our lighted path that we find along the way, we find something very special, a tree of life with deep roots, a firm, resilient trunk, and a large canopy nourished by sunlight, elements, and collective life around it. I'm Linda Wright, your hostess for Lifelong Education, a Texas and federally chartered nonprofit educational institution. Lifelong education can be likened to an inner tree of life, whose roots, trunk, and canopy intertwine with humanity and the natural world, creating a blend that is integral for life to prosper. Inwardly, our branches and leaves reach upward to life-giving wisdom, and our roots reach deeply into our compassionate hearts. Our efforts develop and expand our integral human consciousness and state of well-being. Our coursework in stress management is one branch of our inner tree of life designed to relieve stress and bring calm, fulfillment, and well-being through heartfelt mindfulness practices. Peacefulness allows our hearts and minds to discern better opportunities that fit our new life. We make wiser, loving choices that are good for us and good for others. Now, healthy trees are able to communicate and network with others through their roots and their canopies. Lifelong education is a tree of life that networks with other institutions and individuals dedicated to fostering ethical education and empowering people. We collaborate and nurture values that address the needs of today's world, cultivate peace, advance human consciousness, and catalyze positive societal change. With mindfulness, students also learn to unite their hearts and minds with others, benefiting their interpersonal relationships as couples, family, friends, and community. The other branches of lifelong education coursework are described on our website. After this interview, stay tuned for website information and a bird's eye view of our free online weekly mindfulness sessions and our reasonably priced, robust 9-week course in mindfulness. Subscribers to our YouTube channel can receive updates on our new podcast interviews. Along life's path, I've met some interesting travelers to interview and form friendships with. Today's guest, Jennifer Knight, and I are elementary age Montessori teachers. Our focus is on Jennifer's life journey with the art and science of living mindfully in everyday presence. Jennifer was a master's degree school teacher with years of experience in traditional schools. Through mindfulness practices, she became aware of a career choice that complemented her new mindfulness life. She became a Montessori teacher. Through her efforts, Jennifer became like a matured tree, skillfully nurturing Earth's children through mindfulness. Later, Jennifer shares how she uses mindfulness protocols in classrooms. The Montessori environment and teaching method is different from traditional schools. Montessori enhances unique qualities in each student and lends itself to thriving through mindfulness practices. For clarity and brevity in understanding Jennifer's choice, let's take a peek at what Montessori is like. Days often start and end with students sitting on a comfy rug in a circle while a teaching guide leads a meeting or a mindfulness lesson. Small groups meet with a teaching guide for lessons throughout the day and form supportive relationships. Shelves are filled with interesting hands-on experiential lessons. Students move about, do lessons on a floor rug, a desk, or with others at a table. Students can read, meditate, or relax in a special nook. Outdoor teaching and playing environments are common and promote healthy minds, bodies, and hearts. Gardening creates awe and wonder at bugs, worms, flowers, and food. Creative play is a wondrous thing and creates innovation and fun activities for the children during the day. Exploring the great outdoors takes them to parks, enjoy star parties with each other, sometimes on an overnight campout, and also helps them enjoy nature's wildlife. They often take field trips to museums, observatories, historic places, and others. And now we're going to meet our guest, Jennifer Knight. Jennifer's master's degree, Spanish and English expertise, and Montessori training equipped her to teach for 30 years in public and private settings in the United States and Mexico. She spent 14 years living and working in Mexico. She is currently an elementary Montessori teaching guide in Washington, D.C. She is interested in multiculturalism and multilingualism. Today, we'll follow Jennifer's journey for relieving stress, experiencing greater calm, compassion, and wisdom, while living more in everyday presence. Her journey led her to deeper discoveries about life, health, happiness, passion, and purpose. And now, meet our guest, Jennifer. Welcome, Jennifer, and thank you for joining us today in our interview. We're glad to see you here.
Hello.
And I have a few questions that I would like to ask you. Um, First of all, what do you find that supported you in managing stress? And when did you first discover that?
I would say that there are different points in my life, but if we go back to my childhood, um, I came from the country, a rural environment, Kansas. I was out in nature a lot in my little town. And I also funneled a lot of my energy into sports, and I learned to become a pretty successful basketball player. But I also was a musician. I played the organ at church, I played the piano, I was in the marching band. And then when high school came, I became active in the theater. And that allowed me to express my emotions and all the uh, aspects of the tree branching out with others. Being able to balance the mind, the heart, the feelings, and make logical decisions and also understand others. Theater does that.
Mhm. Okay, so what kinds of other stressors were present in your life then, and what did you do besides theater that helped you deal with that stress? You know, everyday stressors, or
Um,
it might be sometimes there's traumatic stressors even in childhood and early adulthood.
well, I would say that in the 1980s, now it dates me. Now you can tell more or less my age, but we had something going on called the farm crisis. It was an economic crisis, and my father and mother had a small business, family business, and the farmers were our clientele and rural people, and they weren't able to pay their bills. And you can imagine if your customers can't pay your bills, you can't pay your bills. And so my father had a massive heart attack when in 1986, and I was a teenager. And so reflecting back, it was a very stressful time. So probably my ability to focus in on theater and music and the fine arts. It really helped me kind of escape.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying mindfulness is necessarily an escape, but I didn't think of it as mindfulness, but being able to focus and concentrate in on something.
So those things you found to be helpful in your life at that time before you really had a conscious discovery of mindfulness. Uh,
Yeah, yes,
Now,
I could say.
when did you discover like mindfulness practices where you knew them as that, and also meditation, and what made you want to learn mindfulness and meditation?
Yeah, well, fast forward many, many years to Mexico, and I found myself, I was expecting my son. I was pregnant, and I was an older mother, and I was looking for classes that would prepare me for birth. I guess that it's called Lamaze, but I
Yes.
couldn't find that. But someone in the town said, "Hey, there's this woman who does prenatal yoga." And I was like, "Okay, if it works, it works." And I met her and I did prenatal yoga from the time I was in my first trimester until he was born. And there is a portion of yoga practice which involves meditation. Um, yes, they're the asanas, the movements, the
Mhm.
stretches, but there is an aspect of looking inward, being internal. And much of it was about me saying to the child while I was meditating, please have your head down when you're born. I want you to have your head down. And just, kind of alleviating some of my fears around birth and preparing myself for what might happen.
Oh, so carrying your child was really kind of your first entry into mindfulness and meditation and yoga. And
Literally.
so, were there other areas of your life that you found were affected beneficially through mindfulness and meditation?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, years later, I not too many years, my son was older. I found that having a daily yoga practice as much as possible and meditation combined with meditation was beneficial to me. And I had someone who guided me. He was a yogi,
Mhm.
and he is consequently now my husband. But he helped me to understand the importance of having a kind of a discipline and regulating my thoughts, my feelings, my decision making, all aspects of my life. And I don't consider myself particularly good at concentrating or being calm or sitting. Okay. And I
Uh-huh.
still sometimes go, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I do feel there is a calming benefit. So we do yoga together every night before bed.
Oh my goodness.
Yoga and it obviously meditation. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes I don't want to, but I try most of the time to stay on the schedule.
Now, once you started on this path, did you have other challenges come up in your life? That if so, what kinds of challenges?
Yeah, I mean, there's always challenges. I would speak to being a teacher.
Mhm.
I mean, I could talk about the personal realm, but I'll keep it on the Montessori. Before I was a Montessori teacher, there's stress, but there's stress in being a Montessori teacher as well. The stress
Yeah.
dealing with all these children coming at you with all of these needs and wanting this and wanting that. And at times you're having to make a multitude of decisions very quickly and prioritize and all of those things. That's why I did start to do a little bit of meditation practice in the classroom with the kids at times to, for the ones who were interested. You give them the choice. So I would say being stressed as a teacher, and there's a lot of stress, having some kind of strategy for calming yourself down, whether it's
Mhm.
count to 10 There was a child in my class, Montessori class. He was an autistic child, and he noticed I was stressed, and he said to me, "Miss Jennifer, close your eyes, breathe with me. Okay, let's do it together. Breathe in." You know, and this kid who had his challenges, let me tell you, he calmed me down. He led me through a breathing exercise. And that's just a real thing that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it ends up becoming a mutual support network when we teach the children mindfulness, you know. I experienced that also. And I experienced children who taught their parents when their parents were disagreeing. So yeah.
That's cool. I,
Now, when did you, going back a little bit in time, when did you start your teaching career, and what led you to start?
oh, well, are you talking Montessori or just education in
Just
general?
education, and then into Montessori.
All
Yeah.
right, because it's kind of interesting. I don't think you know
Uh-huh.
this.
Uh-huh.
I was in New York City. I was in my 20s. I had got my bachelor's degree in humanities, which is about as general as it gets. And I was working office jobs and stuff. And I answered an ad in the Nation magazine newspaper. I think it's a magazine, right? That said, looking for adult educators. And I answered the ad, and it was to work as a volunteer teacher in Hell's Kitchen, New York City, Manhattan. And it was a Latin American social service agency that, among their services of giving people advice and some assistance, legal and otherwise, they offered English classes. And so I began my association with it. Is it okay if I name the name of the agency or not?
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope it's still there. It's called El Centro de Educación de Trabajadores. It's called the Workers Center. And I started learning to teach. I got some training. I was a volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
which I segued into becoming an adult educator. So I taught English as a second language, and I taught high school equivalency courses in the Bronx.
Oh.
And I taught adult literacy. So I became an adult educator, and I did that for a few years. And I became very exposed to Latin American cultures through the El Centro. And I learned to dance. I didn't really learn Spanish properly. I just heard a lot of Spanish, and I
Uh-huh.
learned a lot about Latin America in
Uh-huh.
Manhattan. The Mexicans I knew called Manhattan Manhatitlan, which is kind of interesting. But I knew lots of people, lots of immigrants. They weren't just from Latin America, and that really fueled me. That's why I talked about multiculturalism. Is just
Uh-huh.
living in New York City was just so vibrant, and it was an amazing experience. 6 years I spent there.
Uh-huh.
That's my
Okay, and
origin.
then you were led to move to Mexico at some point
Yeah,
and become
calling.
fluent.
It was the calling I received actually in the 90s prior to New York. I had visited Mexico City, and I had made kind of a, the word in Spanish is decreto, affirmation, I think. And I stood under a palm tree, and my eyes were tearing over from the pollution and smog, which is kind of
Uh-huh.
real. And I said, someday I will live in this place. So it was like years later, the seed had been planted.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of trees, and I also had lived. I studied my bachelor's degree in Chicago, and I lived in a Mexican community on the west side,
Uh-huh.
Ukrainian village, which used to be Ukrainian but was largely Mexican. And I had lots of exposure to Mexico
Uh-huh.
through vis-a-vis Chicago. And I guess the seeds were planted, and
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And so you ended up in Mexico, and but this was before you had formal meditation and yoga and all of that. So how are you adapting to all of these changes? I mean, that's a lot of change, New York, Chicago, then moving to Mexico. Um,
I think that's part of my uh, path, the light path.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what you called it, or the
Yeah.
light, because the second calling I received to go to Mexico, and I say it was a calling, it was the New Year's. I went to Colorado. I was
Uh,
in a cabin. I was contemplating my existence. And then it came to me, you must go to Guadalajara.
oh.
Yes, you
So
must.
you were actually into a form of meditation called contemplation then.
I guess
Oh.
I
And you
was reading
didn't.
transcendental meditation
Uh-huh.
back. I was getting the background on transcendental meditation
Okay.
for years because I liked the transcendentalist writers.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
through osmosis, but I ended up making my decision to go to Mexico because I was in a meditative state, and
Uh-huh.
I found a program where I could take a course that trained me to become an English teacher. English is a foreign language,
Uh-huh.
and that promised me a job. And I said specifically I wanted to live and work in Mexico City. And within 2 weeks of hitting the ground in Guadalajara, before I finished the training, I had already had a job lined up in the metropolitan area of Mexico City. So it all happened in Guadalajara.
Okay. So and then you when we fast forward at some point you were introduced to your now husband and you
Yes.
got into more formal yoga, mindfulness and meditation practices then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Ironically and interestingly, or well, maybe it is for our listeners,
Uh-huh.
I had been going quite religiously,
Mm-hmm.
not in the religious sense, but I had friends who ran a sweat lodge
Uh-huh.
in a place called Hilotzingo.
Okay.
That's just outside of Mexico City. It's on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been on the weekends, I would go to the sweat lodge almost every weekend
Uh-huh.
and do a sweat lodge ritual. And it was a Mexican sweat lodge. It's called a temazcal. And
Okay.
and it's a ceremony. It's not religious, but it involves ceremonial aspects,
Mm-hmm.
meditative aspects, reflection, etc. And I had been away for a little while and I had come back, and in my absence a new person was attending the sweat lodge. We all kind of knew each other,
Mm-hmm.
some of us the regulars, and that's where I met my husband. And he had heard about me because people talked about me because I'm this American woman who goes to the sweat lodge, and it's not common to
Uh-huh.
find us in
Uh-huh.
those parts of Mexico.
Okay, so you've really traveled through various aspects of mindfulness and meditation for
Mhm.
quite a long time.
Mm.
And then, you're training with your now husband.
Yeah.
What led you then into deciding to teach Montessori, to train in
Oh,
Montessori and to teach it?
yes. It was very interesting that I took a master's degree with the University of West Florida, master's in education. And when you do a master's, you're exposed to different educational theories, pedagogies.
Yes.
And I do recall one of my teachers talked about Montessori. It was like a chapter
Mm-hmm.
or a few paragraphs, and it always kind of piqued my interest because in Mexico there's a lot of Montessori schools, and I didn't know too much about that, to be honest with you. But I it was a mental note I made, note to self. Then when I moved back to the US, we were awaiting news of a visa for my husband and all of
Uh-huh.
that. I worked in a Montessori public school in
Mm-hmm.
Texas.
Yes.
And the reason I took the job, to be quite honest with you, is because it was Montessori. And I said, aha, this is my opportunity to see what it looks like. I managed to finagle a job there, and I wasn't teaching. I was doing family support which is a very important job to support the families. And my
Yes.
Spanish came in handy because I speak a
Good.
lot of Spanish, and we had a lot of families that needed that. Long story made short, they put me in the training because I expressed interest. I said, I would really like to do this. And I got very lucky and I got the training. It was the cosmic curriculum, it's called,
Mhm.
that struck me as it's basically saying to a child, this is the universe. Every year you learn about how the universe came to be. We tell you stories about it. We tell you stories about everything, how mathematics got created, how writing got created. And you do your research and you learn based upon your interests.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, yes, this is the cosmic curriculum, is exactly what I have been doing in my life, is moving about the earth in some way, informing myself based upon my knowledge of the cosmos.
Mhm.
And I think that was the hook or the connection for me, that there is a spirituality to Montessori teaching. Some Montessori teachers don't like to talk about it. Some of us do. Like
Yes.
some of them are like, nope, the spiritual stuff, nope. And I'm like, it doesn't bother me. And it's not religion, but it's that by seeing that you are connected to the whole entire universe and that you have a place in it and you have a role in it. And as a Montessori guide, you say, you, the child, will be in charge, not me. So I have to train you, or well, I have to follow you, guide you, because you're going to be making the decisions for the world. And everything that's been created in the past is built upon, and you have to honor that creation as a Montessorian. And I never saw that in school.
Yes.
And that was just
I
truly
think.
out there. I was like, that it's not
Yeah.
perfect.
Uh-huh.
This is in theory, this is what we're doing. But it's that's why that's how I connected mindfulness, which
Uh-huh.
I never used that word at that time, but that's how I connected it.
Yeah. You know, it's as we travel this path and we start turning inward through various sources, it's
Mm,
like some unseen hand guides us. And when we turn inward like that, we feel that guidance and we follow it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to those around us why we're doing what we're doing, but we know that that's what we're supposed to do because inwardly we develop that inner strength. And Montessori is right in alignment with that. So I
mhm,
think it's really interesting that you went through all various paths in mindfulness and meditation and contemplation and then as this became just a bigger and bigger part of your life on a conscious level, you know, you're led into teaching at a school that's in harmony with that. And I think that's an important
mhm,
point for our viewers to recognize that as we turn inward, we become more in alignment with our authenticity and who we really are. And I think that's one of the real blessings of mindfulness and meditation. And your life experience here just, you know, is such a good example of that. Now, do you teach mindfulness and meditation practices in your classroom? I know that you do. What are your what kinds of
once in a
things do you
while,
teach with the students? What kinds of things
oh,
do you do to help them
I
go inward?
I have taught them how to sit,
Mhm.
you know, how to sit meditation poses, like with the cross-legged pose or with the, two knees on two knees. I've taught them some mudras, you know,
Uh-huh.
mudras, the things to do, what to do with your hands.
Mhm.
I've taught them some breathing. I don't do it very consistently, but I have.
Mhm.
I did study a little kung fu with my son, and I actually have done a little bit of kung fu with them, and they really like that.
Okay.
I This past week, actually, it's a project I've been wanting to do. There's a book by Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements,
Yes.
Toltec Wisdom.
Yes.
And I decided that, okay, I'm going to uh, use quotations and bits from this book. Now, this is very indigenous Mexico philosophy. And
Hmm.
I would say that that is mindfulness. And
Yes.
based on my experience with Mexican Sweat Lodge and indigenous people and other people who are not so indigenous in Mexico, I think that that is what I'm working on now is more of a exposure to philosophy and stories from Latin America.
Hmm.
I do plays, and last year I did La Leyenda del Maíz, the legend of the corn, which is how the corn came to be.
Uh-huh.
And I did the story of how fire came to be, which is called El Tlacuache, El Fuego, the possum and the fire. These are all stories.
Uh-huh.
Storytelling, I know, is not necessarily mindfulness. However, I do feel that it imparts a certain level of concentration. And
Hmm.
then when children act and perform, there's a kind of a spiritual thing that goes on.
Yeah. It plants seeds.
Hmm.
It plants seeds that may turn up years later, you
I
know.
mean, these kids, in having them tell the story of the corn,
Hmm.
I said, well, we need props. We don't have money. We don't have a budget, but we need corn. And they started creating cardboard corn
Hmm.
cornfields, and it was very natural, their connection to the nature aspect.
Yeah, they become very innovative, and it
Mhm.
seems like Montessori students are more connected to nature and understanding nature's role in life and their role in nature.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
We do go out on a trip to the woods. The fifth graders one
mhm,
time their last year, and they
mhm.
learn about ecology and all of those things.
Okay. Do you have other insights about mindfulness and meditation that you want to share? Such as in how it can be useful, say, in family life, interpersonal relationships, moving to new places and environments.
I think you have to find. I would suggest if you struggle with anxiety.
Hmm.
Everybody uses that word now, but if you are anxious, if you have struggles with depression or sadness, I can say, in all honesty, I have had struggles with sadness. I had to intuitively kind of move towards those practices. And to be honest, Sweat Lodge helped me a lot. I started in New York. I used to go to Russian bathhouses, but taking a course, having a yoga teacher, of course, I did that. I had my prenatal yoga teacher.
Hmm.
She's from the Yucatan, and she's a wonderful person. Taking a course of mindfulness and in schools, it's quite often given. Our social emotional learning teachers, all of them, I've seen them use mindfulness techniques. Uh,
Yeah,
so for children and adults, there's plenty of stuff available out there.
yeah. When, some of the things that you've pointed out shows that mindfulness and meditation isn't just one technique, it's many techniques. And so you can find what fits you best.
Mhm.
And also, the various techniques help you expand in various areas of your life. Now, what inspires you to keep it up, to keep meditating, to keep doing mindfulness, to spread mindfulness in your classes?
Well, right now, there's everyone is terrified without going into politics in Washington D.C. Right now,
Yes.
because the federal government is breathing down our necks. I'll leave it at that. The immigrant community and even the non-immigrant community. I work in a Latin American school. 98% of my coworkers are from Latin American countries. We have a lot of Latin American students and everybody international. And I think being able to control your monkey mind and not
Yes.
get paranoid,
Yes.
I think, does that answer your question?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
right now we're all pretty much losing it if we're not careful, and we have to keep our heads
Yes.
and our hearts,
And our hearts.
not lose our humanity towards each other, because right now there's a lot of inhumanity
Yes.
being manifested in certain leadership circles in the world.
Yeah. 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 It's it's like the world is really driving us inward in order to keep our sanity and our well-being.
Exactly.
So,
And I'm lucky that I'm in a Latin American environment, even though I'm in Washington, D.C., is I believe that grace and courtesy, as we talk about in Montessori, is being lost in the United States in many sectors. And being around a lot of beautiful people from Latin American nations, they know how to do grace and courtesy. And they set a very high example.
and to do grace and courtesy, we have to be mindful of others. And that's one area that mindfulness does teach about,
Empathy.
is to become aware of not only ourselves, but our relationship with other people, and to be mindful of others' thoughts and feelings, their culture, and where they're coming from and what their life experience is. So,
Totally. Totally.
mhm,
I mean, you can humble you. It's a very humbling experience to be an American citizen living in Mexico. And I came in such a way that I didn't really know much Spanish. And I was like a child, just listening and soaking it all up. And it was a humbling experience. It was good for me.
mhm.
And it connects to what you just said, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Now, if you on a normal day, do you have a particular go-to practice? Say if the stressors are there or you're feeling sad, is there something that you turn to that just works for you in the moment?
The Tibetan bowls,
Hmm.
the Tibetan bowls and breathing.
Breathing
I
and
don't have
Tibetan.
time in the course of a school day to I don't have much luxury to pause.
Uh-huh. But we can always take deep breaths.
And when they do their early morning routine, I often put the Tibetan bowls.
Okay. All right. Yes. That helps calm the room for the day.
Hmm.
And the deep breathing is always helpful to be able to step back and just take a few deep, even breaths. That helps. Yes.
Yeah.
So, what about in times of great difficulty or traumatic stress? What has you found have you found that helps you the best in those kinds of situations? Say something where it really arouses the emotions or the thoughts.
I think you have to step away. Know when to step away, and maybe that is the right moment to meditate and turn inward
Mhm.
safely, if you can do that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, well, I sure do thank you for sharing your journey with us. And we really appreciate all of the different varieties of mindfulness and meditation that you have brought up and how you've used it really throughout your whole life. Maybe not labeling it that way, but you were actually doing it. And so that's something too that our listeners might want to take a look at, that maybe they're already practicing some mindfulness and meditation. They just aren't calling it that. So we want to say farewell to you and we thank you very much. And I'm going to continue on with this this broadcast to introduce our listeners to some of the things that lifelong education has to offer in the realms of mindfulness and meditation. We do have some free mindfulness sessions that will be coming up that will be weekly. And so I'm going to be going over that with our viewers.
Well, thank you, Linda. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Okay, thank you. As mindfulness course offerings that I would like to introduce you to. In today's interview, we heard from Jennifer, who traveled a journey that began as a child, led her to living in Mexico for a while, and then to having an enjoyable family life and career life that was very fulfilling in an elementary Montessori classroom where she now teaches in Washington, D.C. This all led her into a path of inner self-discovery, from just surviving this life to thriving into this life. The point is, so can you. You can find your unique, your greater well-being, and your everyday presence. Now, in this interview today, we hope that you found hope and inspiration in following your dreams and your life and meeting whatever challenges that you happen to be dealing with in today's world. And we have some things that we'd like to offer you that can help you in that journey. You can join us and experience everyday presence with something we call Simply Sit. And these are free weekly guided mindfulness practices on Zoom beginning Thursday, September 27th at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time in the United States. Now, each practice is going to be guided by a trained professional. And through these 30-minute sessions, you'll learn a different mindfulness practice every single week. And you'll be able to take that into your life and work on it. And these are practices that will that can affect a variety of areas in your life. You can sign up for sessions on our website at lifelong-ed.org. We also have a stress management systems course, and this is for those who want to dive deeper. In January, late January of 2026, Lifelong Education is offering a robust, affordable 9-week mindfulness course, which includes an introduction and 8 lessons. And each of the 8 lessons is taught by a trained professionals, and it includes information and mindfulness technique sessions. It includes interactive sharing and question and answer opportunities with a trained professional. It offers you audio guides for your at-home practice. So we ask you, if you would like to sign up for this, to go to our website for more details, lifelong-ed.org, and you'll be able to sign up for this course. The sign-up details will come about at a later date, but you can go to our website to get more information about the course. Like and subscribe to receive notifications of new Everyday Presence YouTube interviews, and enroll on our website to attend our free weekly guided mindfulness practices beginning September 27th, called Simply Sit. Our website is lifelong-ed.org. And on our website, you can go there for announcements about our YouTube interviews. You can receive course information. There's articles that go into related materials. And there will be updates on our courses and on what's coming up. There's also information for enrollment. Now, refer to the caption box area below the video and video title for our website address and other pertinent websites or information. Check below the video title. And we want to thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to be saying adios, amigos, and we hope to see you again at another podcast interview. And we hope that you can join us for our free weekly meditation mindfulness sessions that will start September 27th.